Hi, my name is Rachel Paxton, and today I'm going to show you how to can cinnamon pears. In this class, you'll learn how to can cinnamon pears. I'll lead you through the process step by step. I'll give you the recipe and canning supply list that you can download and print out for future reference. You can find those in your course materials, and you'll also gain the confidence you need to try more canning recipes on your own. For this recipe, you're going to need some fresh pears, 2 cups of red hot candies, 5 cups of water, and fruit fresh to keep your pears from browning. This amount of candy and water will make 3 quarts of pears. So if you're going to make more than 3 quarts, say if you're going to make 6 quarts, then you would just double the amount of red hot candies and water. You don't need additional sugar for this recipe. The red hot candies are the sugar for this recipe. They'll replace the sugar. And you'll need and I didn't put the amount of pears that you're going to need because it really depends on what size your pears are. If you have really small pears, you may get 8 to 10 little pears in a quart-sized jar. But if you have big pears, you may get 3 or 4 pears in a jar. So it really depends on your pears. You might want to cut up a few and see how many fit in a jar so you can see approximately how many jars you're going to need. You're going to need a boiling water canner, a canning rack if you're using your own stock pot to can, a jar lifter, a wide mouth funnel, and quart-size canning jars. This is what a boiling water canner looks like. If you don't have one, you'll need to get one. You can get these at Walmart, and you can also order them from Amazon. There's a link to this in your supply list in your course materials. It's about $32 from Amazon to get the boiling water canner and the tools that come with it, which I'll show you here in a second. So it's a pretty inexpensive investment to get started canning. This canning rack goes in the bottom of the canner and it comes with your boiling water canner, but if you want to use a large stock pot for boiling water canning, you can. Your pan just needs to be tall enough that you can have an inch or 2 of water above your jars when they're in the pot. And you also need to have a canning rack in the bottom of your pot so that your jars don't sit directly on the bottom of the pan. These cost about $10. They come with your boiling water canner, but if you want to buy just the canning rack so you can use your own stock pot, you can. There's also a link to this in your course materials. You'll need a jar lifter for taking your jars in and out of the pan. A wide mouth funnel makes it easy for you to put stuff in and out of your jars. You're going to want to fill your boiling water canner about 3/4 of the way full with water and heat it to boiling. It might take you a while to get your pears peeled, so you don't have to do this right away, but when you see that you're getting towards the end of peeling your pears, you want to get your water heating before it's time to actually use it. You want to sterilize your jars, rings, and lids in the dishwasher. You can reuse jars and rings, but you can't reuse lids. You'll have to use a new lid every time. So always make sure you have enough lids on hand. They're very inexpensive. If you don't have a dishwasher, you can sterilize your jars in boiling water on the stove, but it's easier to do it in the dishwasher, and then they're ready when you need them. It's important that your jars are hot when you put hot food into them. So jars are affected by temperature change. So if you put hot food in cold jars, it can make your jars crack. So it's important that they're hot when you use them. For this recipe, you're going to use red hot cinnamon candy. There's a couple different ways you can buy these. At Walmart, you can get a box this size for 99 cents. So you need 2 of these boxes to make 3 quarts of pears. So I usually like to stock up on these throughout the year if I know I'm going to make a bunch of cinnamon pears in the fall. And sometimes you can find them in bulk, like at Winco, and you can sometimes find them in bags of candy also. So just look around to find the best deal. And this is the sugar in this recipe, so you're going to be melting the red hots in your water. So you want to combine the water and the red hots in a large saucepan. And if you simmer the red hots in the water, they will melt completely. You also want to add about a tablespoon of fruit fresh to the cooking liquid. The fruit fresh is really inexpensive, and it's important when you're working with peaches or pears to use this to keep your fruit from browning, or it won't be very pretty when you're done with it. This keeps it from browning. This is the part that takes the longest out of making pears. Like, I love pears and I love cinnamon pears, but pears are one of the fruits that take the longest to prepare for canning because they take so long to peel. If you can get someone to help you peel pears, it will go a lot faster. I just use a potato peeler to peel mine. A quick, easy way to get the core out of your pear is to use a melon baller tool like this one. They're really inexpensive. You just use the end of it to scoop the core out. But if you don't have one, you can use a sharp knife just to cut it out. I slice my pears into quarters. My pears usually aren't very big, so I just cut them into 4 pieces, cutting off the core and cutting off any bad spots, and then I place them in a solution of fruit fresh and water to keep them from browning. If you have another big pan that you can put them in, then you could put another tablespoon of fruit fresh in that water and just keep them soaking until you're done peeling all your pears, because they'll get brown quickly. After you're done peeling your pears, place them in the cinnamon liquid and simmer them for about 5 minutes. Ladle your pears and cinnamon liquid into sterilized jars, leaving 1-inch headspace. The headspace is the amount of space between the top of the liquid and the top of the jar. It's very important when you're canning to have the correct amount of headspace so that your food has room to expand when it's being heated. Your jars can break in your canner if there's not the right amount of headspace, so that's very important. Wipe the rims of the jars with a damp paper towel or dish towel so that your lids will get a good seal. Place the lids and rings on the jars, just finger tight. Place them in a boiling water canner. Make sure there's 1 inch or 2 of water above the jars. The water doesn't have to be completely boiling when you put them in the hot water, but don't start the timer until the water is boiling. If you live in an altitude above 1,000 feet, you need to adjust your processing time. It takes longer for your water to boil, so you need to check an altitude chart. There's one in your course materials where you can see what you need to adjust your time for. So this time is for 1,000 feet and less. Use a jar lifter or tongs to remove your jars from the canner and set them on a towel on the kitchen counter to cool. Let the jars sit on the counter till they're cool. When the jars seal, you should hear a pinging noise. They usually will sometimes can in the canner, but if they don't, it can take 10 or 15 minutes for them to seal after they get out. You might hear a pinging noise. You can tell if a jar is sealed or not by pressing your finger down in the middle of it, and if it is sealed, it will be completely flat, and if it's not sealed, you'll be able to push it down and it'll pop back up again. If you have a jar that doesn't seal, it is possible to can it. Like if you had a bad lid, it's okay to reprocess it with a new lid, so that's one option, or you can put it in the refrigerator and still eat it. But your sealed jars you can put in a cool, dark area for 1 to 2 years or more. As you can see from the photo, the pears are starting to soak up the red liquid. You can still see that the pears are a little bit white, but in a week or so, or even in the first day or two, you'll notice that the pears are going to start soaking up the red juice. So when you go to eat them, your pears are going to be completely red. They're not going to be white anymore. These pears are delicious, so I almost don't even bother just with regular plain pears anymore, because these pears have a delicious cinnamon flavor that you just can't beat, and it's something different people haven't really seen before. It's a nice treat. People like to get these for presents too. So if you get some pears, go ahead and try these and see what you think. This is one of our favorite recipes, so I'm happy to be able to share it with you. I hope you enjoy it.